has finally sprung in Northern California. The bees are buzzing, the birds are chirping, and cyclists are hitting the road and trail. I've actually been riding my new gravel bike, a Trek Checkpoint SL5. You might have seen my video on it recently. I'll drop a link in the description if you want to check that out. One thing I want to do to upgrade it is get a second set of wheels. That way I can put a more gravel-oriented set of tires on one set of wheels, and I can put a more road-oriented set of tires on the other wheels. And then the night before a ride, I can easily switch out the wheels to have the perfect ride for the next day. So it was perfect timing when EliteWheels reached out to me and said they saw my other videos where I reviewed wheels and inspected wheels for the level of quality, and said that they were interested in sending me some wheels to check out. New set of wheels for my gravel bike, the G45. This is a super light 1300 gram set of carbon wheels. And what's the most unique aspect of these wheels is that they come with carbon spokes, actually replaceable carbon spokes. So they're very interesting wheels, so I can't wait to open the box and check them out. And we'll be doing that next in the shop, and I'll run them through a whole set of checks that I take as a pro wheel builder, looking at wheels to check the quality level. So this is going to be a fun project and a fun upgrade. All right, so let's see what's inside this box. Okay, it says extra parts. We'll look in there later. Got some spare spokes. The wheels are in nice foam bags. And there's nothing else in the box. So let's check these G45s out. Wow. You could feel right away how light this wheel is. This is the rear wheel. Protective caps on the axles. Front wheel. Those are heavy duty wheel bags. There you have them, both wheels. Notice the carbon spokes. It's the most impressive or most unusual feature. They use their proprietary UNI carbon in the rims. They've got rim tape already applied, tubeless valve stems already. The hubs have ceramic bearings. Let's see what they gave me for spare parts. Well, it looks like it's an owner's manual. I don't think there's any parts in there. That's just the owner's manual. And I'm very interested in looking at these spokes. There's 4 spokes. These are the same spokes in the wheel. That's what's unique. They have carbon spokes, and just like the steel spokes that are in almost every wheel out there, these carbon spokes, if you manage to damage them, you can replace them. Elite calls these wheels the Series Drive G45s. They're 45 millimeters tall, and they're 24 millimeters internal width, 31 millimeters external width, which lets you run between 30 and 50 millimeter wide tire. Elite's G45 rims feature their in-house designed carbon called UNI. It took their engineering team 2 years of continuous experimentation with lighter carbon fiber materials and increased research and development of resins to design it. UNI has properties that fall between Toray T800 and T1000 carbon fiber for a higher strength to weight ratio compared to more traditional carbon fiber, as shown in this chart. The G45 rims passed the UCI's impact test and more than 10 others. The UCI is the governing body of pro cycling. Here's some data from Elite's lateral stiffness, vertical stiffness, spoke hole tension tests, and a photo of an impact resistance test setup. Each G45 carbon rim weighs 410 grams plus or minus 15 grams. The rear wheel has 20 spokes, and so does the front wheel. The front wheel has cross 2 on the disc side and radial spoking on the drive side, and the rear wheel has cross 2 lacing on both sides. The hubs have NBK ceramic bearings, and the freehub body has 4 pawls. Elite uses carbon spokes because they have a higher stiffness to weight ratio over traditional steel spokes, and this translates to an increase in lateral stiffness, which is great for efforts out of the saddle, cornering, and sprinting. Here's an idea how they go in, but it would probably take something like a crash and a stick or rock, or maybe a pedal from another bike going into the wheel to break these spokes. The spokes weigh only 4 grams each compared to light steel spokes at 6 grams each. Yet the Elite spokes have a much higher tensile strength, up to 400 kgf, meaning fewer spokes are needed to build wheels. The significant weight savings and superior tensile strength make wheels more responsive. Plus, the spokes themselves can be made to be significantly more aerodynamic. All these factors add up to nice performance gains out on the road and trail. So the wheels feel super light, and Elite says that they weigh 1,300 grams per pair, plus or minus 30 grams. So let's see how they did. This is the rear wheel. Check it out, it's 716 grams. So we got the front wheel on there, and that's 627 grams. And now for both wheels together, 1,344 grams. But remember, the valve stems are already in here, and the rim strips are too. So that's where that little extra 44 grams is coming from. I think if we took those off, the wheels might actually be lighter than 1,300 grams. So this truly is a super light pair of wheels. Now that we've taken a good look at the wheels, we're gonna run them through a few checks. These are basic checks that any wheel builder would use to check out a set of wheels. Maybe someone else built the wheels and they're checking them out for a customer, or maybe they're factory built wheels that just need to be checked to make sure they're up to snuff. We'll run the G45s through the checks and we'll see how they do. So I've got the rear wheel in the truing stand. I'll give it a spin and we'll come in close and look at the gap between the indicator on the truing stand and the rim as it's spinning. So what we're looking at is this pointer on this side on the truing stand and the gap between the pointer and the rim. Now this ruler right here is about 1 millimeter thick, and that gap between the pointer and the rim is probably 0.5 millimeter. So I'm going to give the rim a spin and we'll look at how perfect it rolls side to side, whether there's any major movement, any wobble side to side, lateral run out. As they zoom in, it looks like a bigger gap. But that wheel is very straight, side to side. It's not 100% perfect, but that's a carbon rim, which basically means it's a molded of pieces of carbon. So the side to side looks very good. So this is the rear wheel. So while we have it in here, we'll adjust the truing stand and look at the up and down, look for issues with roundness. And to do that, we'll just bring the indicator underneath the rim, the pointer, and then bring it over here like this. And bring it up. Create a little gap, and then we'll give it another spin. Wow, very nice. Look how nice and round that wheel is. No up and down, no dips, no hops, just a nice round rim. It's very nice. Both side to side and up and down. Nice job, Elite. It's the front wheel's turn. I've zoomed in tight. I've set that indicator right there, the pointer, at the same gap, about 1/2 millimeter from the rim, just like we had it on the rear wheel. This is the front wheel now. We'll give the wheel a spin. That's a good wheel too. But you might see that right there, is the tiny spot where there is actually a little tiny wobble. You wouldn't feel that riding down the road, there's no way. But in a truing stand where you can set it to such tight tolerances, you can see really small gaps like that. Small imperfections. That's what that is. It's an imperfection. Might have to do with how the rim was molded. Well, that's not quite as perfect as the rear wheel, but it's still absolutely fine. Not going to cause any problems. So we'll adjust the pointer like we did before. Put it underneath the rim, and we'll check this front wheel. See how round it is. So we're in tight, just like we were on the rear wheel, and we'll give the wheel a spin, and you're going to want to watch right here, the small gap we've set here. That's another really nice round wheel. Look at that. Almost no change at all. Just spins round, nice. That's the way you want to see them. That's a really good job. So that's trueness and roundness for the front and rear wheels. So next we check wheel centering with a tool called a dishing gauge or a centering gauge. Looks like this. I hold the wheel up, and this tool has 3 feet on it. A foot on either end and a foot in the center. And you rest the feet on the ends on the rim, and you adjust this foot in the middle until it just touches the axle. And if the rim is centered over the hub, when we flip it over, the tool will touch on the same 3 points. Look at that. Absolutely perfect. So that tells you that when you put the wheel in the frame, it's going to be perfectly centered between the stays. The front wheel will be centered in the fork. And that has to do with the alignment, how the bike frame and the wheels and the fork are all aligned and how it rolls down the road. So they got that wheel perfect. So now we check the front wheel. Front wheel is different size hub, so you have to change it. Slide that foot down. Flip it over. Just like the rear wheel. Man, they got those perfect. Nice job centering the wheels. Now the next check on my list is to check spoke length. But I can't really check spoke length without taking off the rim tape. The rim tape is what seals the rim for tubeless tires. And taking it off and reinstalling it could affect the sealing. And I don't have more rim tape, especially the type that Elite provides with their wheels. So I'm going to trust the fact that the spokes are the right length. And the reason I'm going to trust them is because in order to use straight spokes like this with their own proprietary carbon spokes and the special nipples that they're using on this end, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't even work if they didn't get the spoke lengths right. So we're going to give them a pass on that check because I can't really check it. If on a lot of the way you would check it with a standard wheel with steel spokes, even these spokes it would work. If you peel the rim tape off, or if there wasn't any rim tape, you'd look inside the spoke nipple and see how close to the top of the nipple the spoke is. You want it close to the top. But I'm sure that they did their homework and they got the spoke lengths right. And you'll know if they don't because the wheels will loosen up when you're riding down the road. Or you could have other issues, but that's the most likely one. For this check, we get to use a cool tool called a spoke tensionometer. And you put this tool on each spoke and you can tell how tight they are. Now I know that Elite wheels, because they told me, are tensioned to 120 kilograms of force. So I want to check the wheel and see if they're tight as they say they are. And what you're looking for is to make sure that you have almost perfectly even tension. And what you check is the tighter side of wheels. And you'll see when we check the rear wheel, we'll check the drive side of the rear wheel because that's the cassette side. So what we're going to do is use the tool, go around the wheel. There's 10 spokes. We're just going to get a number on all 10 spokes. I don't know if you'll be able to see the number on the tool, so I'll just read it. So we start at the valve stem and we'll go around. 34, 29, 29, 27, 32, 32, 31, 30, 27, 31. Now we'll measure the rear wheel, the right side spokes, the cassette side spokes, because those are the tightest spokes. 28, 26, 21, 25, 28, 27, 27, 26, 27, 25. So the average tension reading on the front wheel was 30, and the average tension on the rear wheel was 26. So that tells me that they're definitely at 120 kilograms of force, at least, maybe a little bit tighter for that rear wheel, based on the chart, the tension chart that I have, and based on the dimensions of these spokes. Now I'm a little surprised that they weren't more consistent, like 28, 28, 28, 27, 28. That's typically what you'll find with steel spokes that are perfectly tensioned. But I've never worked with these carbon spokes before, and these are wide aero profile carbon spokes. So the shapes of the spokes can affect the reading on the tensionometer. If the spokes are a tiny bit thicker or thinner, or there's a little bump on them, or you're not exactly on the flat. So you saw me mess around trying to hold the tool at the perfect angle so the tool's feet that you rest on the spoke are perfect and in touch with it. I even zeroed the tool a few times to make sure we were starting at 0. So it might just be the nature of the spokes that they don't read perfect numbers across the board, but the overall tension is really good. So they get high marks on that, and that's an indication of a wheel that should hold up. Also, the fact that it's so true side to side and so true round, that tells you that those minor deviations in individual spoke tensions haven't affected the trueness or roundness of the wheel at all. One of the features of the wheel is these spokes are aero spokes, so they're flat. So ideally, the flat spoke travels straight down the road so it slices the wind. But when you tighten wheels and tension wheels and build wheels, you can twist the spokes, get them so that they're into the wind. Instead of slicing through the wind, they work like a fan blade and they catch the wind. So there's a little tool you can use to check that, and you just go around, you put it on each spoke, and you look at the spoke, and you look at the tool, and what you're looking to see is if the tool is 90 degrees to the rim, which tells you that the spoke is oriented correctly. So we'll just go around, we'll take a quick look at every spoke on the wheel. Now you can see that this one is a little off compared to that one. That one's good. That one's good. That one's a tiny bit off. That one's good. Pretty good. 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 Nice. Nice. Good. Nice. Nice. Good. Right on. Good. Another good one. That one, tiny bit off, but overall, these are really good. You'll find aero wheels where they're twisted every which way, but you can see they made a conscious effort in this wheel to get those things lined up before they let the wheel out. So let's check real quick. Check the front wheel. So that spoke's a little off. Well, that spoke's a little worse off. That one's good. That spoke's a little off. That spoke's worse off. That's not very good, that one. That spoke's close. That's a little off. That spoke's a little off too. Yeah, another one, tiny bit off. That's where they should be. A little off. That one's on. That's another one that's twisted a little bit. That one's good. That's a little off. That's pretty good. A little off. That's good. That one. Yeah, those are a little off. That one is. That's good. Yeah, those left spokes, they're a little off. That one's good. That one's pretty good. Yeah, the rear wheel was really good. The front wheel has some spokes that a discerning wheel builder would have probably reset them, put them back to straight again. Just a little bit, just a slight rotation of the spoke would get it straight again, in line aerodynamically. So another test is to check that the wheels were stress relieved when they were built. So what I do to check that, and this looks harsh, like you're hurting the wheel, but you don't put that much pressure on the wheel. You just put a little lateral weight on the wheel. You go around from the valve stem back to the valve stem. Just push a little bit and see if the wheel has been stress relieved at the factory the way they should, to get any issues between the spokes and the rim and the spokes and the hub that settle it in, because you want it to happen during the building process, not when you're out riding the bike. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little lateral pressure on the wheel. Boy, you can feel how stiff this wheel is when you do this. You can You usually feel the wheel move a little bit. So we went around once, we just gave it a little pressure. We put that wheel, the rear wheel down, and we'll do the same thing, front wheel. Sometimes you'll even get a wheel to make a popping sound. No, these wheels are very stiff laterally, which is exactly what Elite said they are. Alright, so we just put a little pressure on them. I didn't feel a thing. I'd be very surprised if they changed them at all. But now the next test is to put them in the truing stand, see if they came out of true at all. Here's the rear wheel. And you can see that stress relieving it, me pushing on it, didn't do anything at all. It's just as perfect as it was before. And here's the front wheel. You can see that that's the same too. So they definitely took care of stress relieving the wheels when they built these wheels. They didn't change at all. So that's a great job. That means the wheels should hold up really good right from the get-go. So the final checks have to do with the valve stem, the tape, the tubeless tape inside the rim put on in the factory, and the ease of installation of a tire. So the rim strip to me looks beautiful. There's no bubbles anywhere. It goes from sidewall to sidewall. And it's really tight. Now, you don't want the sealant to get underneath it. You don't want the air to be able to escape anywhere. So it looks like they've done a really nice job, and the valve stem looks very nice too. Aluminum valve stem. And removable valve cores, which is good, important for tubeless, because you can remove the valve core, poke something through there if you get a sealant plug, and means you can take them out to let the air out, and also to put sealant through the valve if you want. So first, let's try putting on a tire that's used. These usually go on easier. I'm not mounting these to ride, I'm just checking to see how they go on the rim. Should be able to put tires on by hand. This is a Specialized tire. Yeah, that was easy. See if we can get it off by hand. Doesn't look like it wants to come off by hand. Take that off. Let's try this new tire from Pirelli. The Cinturato. That goes on easily too. Let's see if we can get this one off by hand. Yeah, that one I can get off. So they passed that test with flying colors. Easy to put the tires on. Those are tubeless tires, a used one and a new one. And one is a little narrower tire and the other one is a little wider tire. And they both went on and came off pretty easily. So that's a nice thing. Usually that's a problem when a tire won't go on and off. Usually that's a tire problem, an undersized tire. Usually it's not the rim's fault, but still people blame the rim. So it's good to test it and make sure. And these Elite G45s took those tires for installation was easy. So I've been marking down scores as we did the checks, and you'll see trueness side to side. I gave the rear an A, the front an A minus, the roundness up and down an A and an A, rim centering dish A, spoke length not applicable, not applicable. I trust that they're the right length, but there's no way I can check it without taking the rim tape off. Spoke tension, I gave them an A and an A. A spoke twist, I gave the rear an A minus. It had a couple that were a little out. The front, there were several. On one side, I would have checked most of those spokes and made sure they were a little better. Then they passed stress relieved with flying colors, an A and an A. And then I'm going to give the rim tape fit an A, and I'm going to give the valve quality an A, and I'm going to give ease of tire installation an A, and ease of tire removal an A. But these are really high marks overall. The only issue at all is the spoke twist, which is kind of a minor issue. It's not that it's going to affect the wheel. You might never even know about it if I hadn't showed you. You definitely wouldn't feel it riding down the road. It's just that if you're looking for perfection and you know about aero spokes, you might be unhappy if you checked them and found that some were a little off. Overall, these G45s are impressive wheels. They did really well in the tests, all the checks that we did, and the only small issue was that some of the aero spokes are twisted a little bit on the front wheel, which is something you might not even notice. It's great that the tires go on and off so easily. This rim looks like a very nicely designed rim. The depth and the width should make for a variety of tires you can run on the wheels, and should have a very stiff lateral feel on the trail and the road, which is what Elite says comes from the rim shape and the carbon spokes. So it'll be fun to ride them, and I'm looking forward to getting some tires on them and getting them out on the road. And the next video about these wheels will be about the ride quality and how they hold up out there. I do have another video which I'll link to in the description on how to straighten or align twisted spokes. It's not hard to do. I think if you're on the market for a new set of gravel wheels, these Elite G45s would make a nice upgrade for most any gravel bike. They're very light and they should ride great, set up the way they're set up and built the way they're built. If you have any questions about the test that I did or the wheels, happy to answer questions. Just drop a comment and I'll get right back to you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have fun out there on your bike, and thanks for watching.